Well, hi again, and thank you for joining us for the after show to Secrets of the Better Halves. I'm Dan Mulhern, and joined by my great partners, Markos Kounalakis and Debbie Phillips. You guys, I'm feeling overwhelmed with different emotions. How about you after that sharing of our origin story?
For me, if I'm calm in crisis, in a reflective mode, I sort of go through all the trauma and difficulties and feel a gut punch right now, knowing that it's safe to think about that, to feel that so far into the distance. And after having watched the world change back into a more normal frame, but I'm feeling really kind of raw right now, just reliving that.
For me, I'm feeling so grateful that you shared what went on for you too that night. And I feel the trauma of what you experienced. I also feel so appreciative that you were in touch with what happened that night. And I feel appreciative of the way you were with your spouses and your children and that you had them on your mind. And, Markos, for me in particular, the fact that you were a war correspondent and you went through that trauma of that election night, it felt very similar. It was a war of sorts.
Most of us are blessed not to be in war zones. And so it's metaphoric for us. It was a campaign, like we call wars.
Yeah.
We lost the campaign, and there were terrific losses on many sides. I was touched, Debbie, when you said, well, Dan, you gave Jennifer what you could and what she needed. There's so much effort in being a better half. I work at it, and the show is about working at it and about learning how to do it, whether it's a spouse or in many ways we're better halves to each other in this work. But there's such a giftedness. I mean, I can't help but think, wow, Markos and I just sort of got plopped by the universe onto that little spot where we were both comfortable standing on the rooftop. Neither of us wanted to drift and have small talk with 100 people. We were both immersed in it, and we shared this love for our spouses and our own engagement in that. But we also shared, as Markos shared with you, his ability to step out and reflect, his historical ability to say, life goes on, and my philosophical and spiritual ability to step back and say, some of our greatest lessons are grown from that. I'll tell you this funny story. My son had a big punching bag, one of those heavy bags. It weighs like 80 pounds. And he didn't use it anymore, so it was sitting in the back, and it sprouted this pine tree, 2-foot pine tree sprouted out of this punching bag. And that's kind of how I feel, Markos. You and I sprouted out of a punching bag.
One of the reasons I love the Rooftop story so much was because I saw it as the phoenix rose from the ashes from that night. I hope someday we get to tell Hillary Clinton that not all was lost that night. In fact, something was really gained because the two of you became friends. Markos, I remember you first mentioning Dan, and I was like, oh, that's so amazing. Those two guys became friends, because I know historically it's hard, as you were saying earlier, Dan, about, men connecting with each other. And I just found that fascinating that you two met each other that night, and look what's come from it since.
Well, two things came out of that for us. And as I say, you always are Lenny's always looking for what does she do next and how does she change following a difficult moment. And for her, it led to her running for public office for the first time. If Hillary had not lost, and if she had not said to all these women, go out there and run for office, she never would have done this. This was never on our radar. And so that's obviously one thing. She ran and she won with Hillary Clinton's help. And so we've shared that with her. And she knows that some good things did come out of that very bad event. The second thing is, in fact, that Dan and I got to know each other. He, that evening, had so much political perspective and such great spiritual quality to him and reflective ability. And so I knew I needed to remain in contact with him. And so sure enough, we got home and we got in touch with each other, had a lunch at the Claremont Hotel, shared some of our work with each other, and continued the conversation, not always actively, but at least via email and with shared thoughts. And then we would intersect on a regular basis. And one final thing is, once Eleni did win her election for Lieutenant Governor of California, the MC and host of her inauguration was Jennifer Granholm.
What a fascinating conversation. Much more to be continued. That's a wrap. We'll see you next time.